Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Troy Angernon. I'm the VP Sales and Partnering for Cloudscaling. We are a software and solutions company. We make compute and storage infrastructure, essentially infrastructure as a service solutions that are very deeply Amazon Web Services compatible, and they're built on a great technology called OpenStack. As Yobi coached me yesterday, he said, "Is that like Amazon in a box?" I said, "Yeah, that's basically what it is, modular infrastructure." We see the world in two different groups of buckets of applications. We see the last 20 years of applications have been sort of client-server applications, and we're now seeing this huge wholesale shift, not shift, but addition of web and mobile applications. And in the old world, you scaled up. If you needed more capacity, you bought a bigger box. In the new world, if you need more capacity, you buy more small boxes. And what we're seeing is that the infrastructure underneath these applications is different. So the infrastructure for the old world looks much more like VMware, Cisco, EMC, Savvis, Terramark, sort of everybody in that camp. And in the new world, you find infrastructure that looks like Amazon, Google, and Rackspace. We're very, very centered on building infrastructure for cloud-ready applications. One of the things that we've seen, and we've been in business 2 years building custom clouds, almost 100 racks deployed around the world. And so now we're productizing everything we've learned. And one of the things we've heard over and over again is if you're an enterprise or a web app company, you're saying, "I love Amazon. It's great, it's fast, it's flexible, it has all of the reasons that I would want to use it. But I can't put everything, all of my cloud-ready apps, I can't put them all on there. I need some, for some constraint, I need to put them inside my firewall, under my control. I might have compliance issues, or maybe the data is too big to move or too expensive to move." So there are a variety of reasons, or I want to put some of my workloads out and some in, like some popular gaming companies. So we've heard that. We've also heard service providers say, "I love what Amazon's doing. I want to build something like that in my country, my region, my territory." So what we realized is they're all asking for the same thing, whether it was private or public. They were saying, "I want to build chunks of infrastructure. I want to start small and grow big, put it into production for private or public use." It turns out that's just really, really hard. It's harder than what this guy's doing. You have to know everything about everything. You have to know everything from the application all the way down into the infrastructure and down to the data center. And it turned out we've watched a lot of failures. We've watched a ton of these failures, private and public, all over the world. So we decided to solve the problem. We built a complete solution. It's modular infrastructure. It's completely, very deeply Amazon Web Services compatible. It's powered by OpenStack, which we believe is the best cloud technology out there. And it is able to go from a single rack, which in our world is about 1,000 virtual machines, up to hundreds of racks, from one site to many sites, and from one country to many countries. It's the open cloud system is what we call it, and it comes in 3 components. You have our Open Cloud OS, which is our distribution. You can think of it as production-grade OpenStack. We have Cloud Blocks, which is our architecture, which is a modular approach, a way of designing and building systems where the software understands the hardware, and you can build your infrastructure in a modular way. And we have hardware blueprints. You can't build a real cloud unless you understand the hardware. You have to understand how it runs, how to drive the costs out, and how to make it very, very efficient and be able to buy from multiple vendors, put it into the cloud, and know it's going to work. We also have a complete set of services, assess what your goals are, either internal or external, design the system, both implement the entire system in top to bottom, build the system with you and with your team, and then we can operate it or we can hand off to an internal operational team. So the result of all of this, both the open cloud system, which again is the software, the architectural approach, and the hardware, and then the cloud path services, together that basically gives you a completely integrated solution. It's something that allows you to get the innovation from the OpenStack community, which is amazing, but in a controlled manner. It allows you to get something that's production grade. We all come from operator backgrounds. We built very large scale systems. We know what it takes to build something production grade. And it's deeply compatible so that the behavior of the entire system is what you expect. So you can move your applications or your customers can move their applications from Amazon to this infrastructure and back. Business model is very simple. We charge per dollar of capacity, dollar per core, dollar per terabyte. Pricing's not announced yet, but it will be at the end of this quarter, beginning of next, when we do our official product launch. We're just about there, so we're pretty excited about that. And our team, as you can see here, is all sort of infrastructure, web app, in backbone sort of folks. So we've got production and sort of DNA all the way through the company. We're revenue positive. We've got some great customer names. Some of them are blacked out here. We've got Trinity Ventures backing us and some awesome partners helping us scale. So what we're looking for today is not so much those things. We're looking for customers. We're looking for people who are looking to build private clouds, public clouds. You're looking for something that can scale from a single rack to hundreds of racks, from one site to many sites. Or you're coming in and you're saying, I want Amazon, but I want my own version of it behind my firewall, or I want a production OpenStack cloud. So if you're building cloud-ready applications and you need some infrastructure, we'd like to talk to you. Thank you.
Great, Troy. Good job. All right. Stay here. Don't walk off the stage yet. We have some questions to ask you. You ready for those?
Yeah,
Sure.
do you mind? I'll ask a question, which is actually a couple. One question, one comment. The question is, which is a bigger opportunity, public or private, as far as you're concerned, public clouds or private clouds? Because I'm confused with your messaging, who you're selling to, you know. You want to go after Citibanks, or you want to go after, basically Levi's and Citibanks, or do you want to go for, we hate the word public, That's number one.
Okay.
And my advice, skip talking about doing 100 racks, because that's, for us, it's 100 racks is like, okay, it's, that's one, it doesn't speak to scale. To a company like
Citi. You can't understand what that translates to.
I know what it translates to, because I have like data centers the size of football fields, you know. But it's not, frankly, not big enough, and it leaves, it doesn't tell me it's big.
Right.
It tells me it's like a science experiment, and I would take that out of your pitch. So that's it.
Great.
So what's
Do you want to answer the first question about the markets? So our answer to that is we're going after both. We've had our greatest, earliest success with the service providers who are basically terrified of Amazon and rack-based public cloud and some of these competitors coming over the hill. So we've got a lot of early success with those folks. We have also started to get early evidence that there's a significant number of global 600, I would say, enterprises as well as web app companies. But I think the enterprise is the larger market of those two, saying we're already, 95% of us are using Amazon. We still want to bring some component of that inside. So we still believe it's both markets.
Do you really believe that enterprises like, just in financial services use Amazon?
Yeah, I know they do. We have evidence. We've talked directly to Amazon. I know one Wall Street shop that's spinning up 4,000 VMs a day for 3 hours every day to do Monte Carlo simulations.
Okay.
In fairness, though, Yobi, between Moore's Law and all the virtualization going on, we're taking approximately a football field of a data center and squeezing it into a rack these days, and
I get
that trend's going to continue.
Right.
So 100 racks
is 100,000 virtual machines.
That may not be so impressive right now, but at some point that number may actually work well in a presentation.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's still a good point.
All right, yeah, okay.
Tom, what do you think?
I love the idea of linking product and services and avoiding vendor lock-in and things of that nature. The reality, though, is a lot of our business is still locked into those traditional apps, and that's what gets people like me hired and fired. And but we're doing a lot of work in the Amazon cloud for things like viral marketing, a lot of our digital blitzes where we need that huge scale. But where companies like us, we don't have a lot of that open source talent or the open stack, or we're not sure how to get started in some of this stuff. How do you test and scale, or how do you get companies like us started?
Yeah, it's a question we've been running into, and what we've been saying is start small, put it in a small pirate rebel crew that wants to go off on the side and do it outside of the purview of sort of the regular IT. It's no different than when we went from mainframe to client server. It had to start small in some corner of the shop and grow. So we've seen some success with that kind of approach of let's go off in a corner, let's take a couple of web and mobile applications that are on Amazon and repatriate them, bring them home, or just start them new and put them off on the side and let them have their own little success. Mm-hmm. But you definitely want to shelter it from the rest of the organization because it's a huge cultural shift.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Gretchen over here is just itching to answer that question, given the integral role that Piston Cloud has played in OpenStack, but we'll let her answer soon.
So,
Mike?
so one of the things that we talked about when we spoke last night is you had talked about a competitive differentiator of having not only the open source software, but some reference architectures that you would deploy underneath
Right.
too. So it wasn't that you were just kind of buying software and trying to integrate it yourself and make it all work. You had
Right.
a top to bottom stack. Historically, in the computer environment, that model has been relatively difficult to pull off because you're not in control of the hardware. The hardware changes a lot. And once you kind of start putting those reference architectures out there, there's some expectations of support. And then, you know, one of your suppliers will change a BIOS or something else like that. And it's very hard to keep up
Right.
with just the support requirements, because the support requirements change dramatically
Exactly.
as the hardware base grows. How are you going to address that?
Yeah, so that was actually fundamentally how we came to the business model, because we looked at what Amazon and Google were doing, which really are a pattern for success here. And we said, how do they do this? They're running, Amazon's running somewhere north of 400,000 physical nodes. That's the current number estimate. Google is somewhere between 1 and 2 million. They don't have 5,000 hardware configurations. They have 10 hardware configurations or less from 2 to 3 to 4 suppliers. And so we had kind of a continuum of, you know, do you run it on anything that you have available, or at the other end, do we do an appliance? And we chose this really odd spot, which is we're going to do what Amazon and Google do and say, here are 2, 3, or 4, or 5 vendors that are known, trusted, and vetted and certified. Very baseline, commodity, efficient infrastructure. It's very cheap. It's kind of inexpensive but reliable hardware that I can put 2 racks from vendor A, 10 racks from vendor B, 10 racks from vendor C, and know that it's going to work.
But the challenge with that approach is a lot of times the companies that you're citing are either doing custom engineering or have enough economies of scale to be buying tens or hundreds of thousands of these servers and can lock them into a configuration.
Right.
I'm assuming that you're working with an off-the-shelf Dell or HP or whatever configuration.
We're not.
No.
We went
Okay.
straight to the same, the original design manufacturers in China that HP, Dell, Cisco, and everybody else uses as their source manufacturer, and went straight up to them and said, we want to build custom clouds and, you know, private clouds, public clouds, and we want to get into this business with you. And they said, great. So we've been working directly with them.
Okay, so then that leads to a little bit of a different question.
Sure.
How do you keep the openness of the competition of other vendors going if you're kind of locking your customers into the vendors that you're working with
Yeah, so
in
it's
China?
not so much locked in. It's just a limited number of vendors, which we're going to increase over time as we get them vetted and certified. So I think if I can answer the question, try to do it briefly. We're starting with the first 2. We're currently certifying on 2 more, which are more brand name. And you're definitely right. There's a management issue there of as they change the platform, we're going to, for example, from Westmere's to Romley and Sandy Bridge right now, we have to manage that for our customers so that they can buy that next platform and integrate it in. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
Any questions from the room? Okay.
Yeah, so I was kind of going off on what Mike said. It's interesting, you know, as you guys are trying to grow your business and you decided to go straight to China, right, and get your own hardware. So it's when you could maybe look at some of the other people that traditionally sell hardware and work with them as a channel, and they're likely to be a competitor with you in OpenStack.
No, we're doing both. So let me be clear. So we don't sell the hardware. We only specify it. And what we do is build a relationship directly between our customer and the hardware vendor, or they may already have that relationship. So we're not in the way. We're not a middleman in that hardware situation. We're just simply specifying what configurations, what ratios, and what sort of general constraints to put on the hardware. So we'll add more and more of those. So we definitely have ODMs from China, original design manufacturers, as well as more brand name.
You know, that really complicates your sales cycle as far as an enterprise is concerned. Because before you bring in a box, even if it's a Dell made by Quanta, made by Dell, Quanta made by Quanta, even if it's exactly the same, it's going to have to go through the whole 9, 12 months of hardware certification, et cetera. That, for an enterprise, large enterprises, that would complicate your sales cycle.
Actually, what's been interesting is our version uncomplicated it because we said, our first one is Quanta. We're working with these additional ones. And they said, oh, we already have, for example, Dell. Can we use those? Great, no problem. We give them a spec, and they've already got supply chain set up.
All right, guys, I got to cut it off. You guys can